Hello. Thank you all for joining us for this live Q&A session for our 2025 Rocky Mountain Reach Pilot Awards. We are excited to share more about this opportunity with you. My name's Leidy Wagner, and I'm the operations manager for Rocky Mountain Reach. You likely got emails about this from me. So nice to have you with us. And also on the call, we have our co-directors Karen Brown and Erica Woodall. And I think I might pass it over to each of you to do a brief intro of yourselves and just talk a little bit about the award and any questions that anyone has. You can either drop it in the chat or you're welcome to use the raise hand function and ask that once they've given their little spiel. And then we do have some other information that we can share if there aren't any super specific questions. So Karen, I will pass it to you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the award.
Perfect. Thanks, Leidy. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us here today. Feel free to turn your cameras on if you so wish. We'd love this to be a little bit more of a collaborative discussion, answering any questions that were unclear from the RFA, or anything about the REACH program and what we can provide to you overall. So REACH is the Research Evaluation and Commercialization Hub. It's one of 5 NIH-funded hubs across the US. It is a program that the NIH has funded in 3 cohorts, and the intent is to establish an academic biomedical entrepreneurship hub to facilitate and accelerate the translation of academic biomedical discoveries into the market or into products that can improve patient care and public health broadly. So this is the second year that we are funding a cohort of 4 to 6 projects. We have a little bit of an extended timeline this year, but we're really looking for anything that will move the needle forward on health outcomes. So we've funded devices, we're funding small molecules, we're funding apps that are being developed, and maybe a couple more that I can't think of right now. But the intent is to provide an additional $50,000 in this pilot award. And going through the pilot award successfully will make you eligible to participate in the Drive Award, which is an additional $50,000, and that's direct costs. And what we provide to you is some education and training opportunities more related to biomedical product development and entrepreneurship. We provide you the project management support for your program. So, you know, in this first cohort of funded hubs, we're already doing our monthly check-ins with the teams, trying to identify those barriers that we can potentially unlock for them, bringing in our network, but also bringing in the network that we're engaged with the NIH, so that we can support the regulatory piece and understanding unmet need or market potential for these projects and a number of other things. So that's a very high level overview. If anyone has anything else to add, Leidy or
Erica, Erica, do you want to add
Sure.
anything?
I can introduce myself, Erica Wood. I'm with Karen. We're the co-leads of Rocky Mountain Reach. I'm a professor at the University of Montana in the biomedical and pharmaceutical sciences part of our School of Pharmacy. So my research is in kind of clinical translational space. So my research area is in genomics and how we can use genomics to improve medication safety and efficacy. And I go from the discovery side through clinical research with rural and indigenous communities in Montana. And I think Karen did a great summary of REACH, so I don't really have too much more to add other than I think, you know, we have some potentially really unique and cool innovation projects across this 4-state region. And we're really excited for those that particularly might address unique needs for rural communities, tribal communities.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you both. Before we get into some more just information sharing, does anyone have any specific questions right off the bat? Again, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can pop it in the chat or the Q&A and I can ask Karen and Erica.
Maybe if we could just do even a quick round of introductions to hear where
Oh,
you're
sure.
all from and what,
Yeah, that's a great
what
idea.
kind of, got you, what motivated you to join this call?
Great. Yeah, I'll call on folks to introduce themselves, talk about your institution, and like Erica said, what brings you to have interest in our award. I will start with Jack.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm a professor at the University of Alaska here in Fairbanks. So I received an invitation to join this program so I kind of interested in this because I have been always thinking about to turn a patent that I've been already awarded into some commercialization thinking if it's be able to develop in the clinical product. So this patent is basically use the next generation sequencing technology to find the potential pathogen. And then that is especially true for the pandemic, because this pandemic it's a brand new virus come in and nobody knows that, right? So the pattern really is try to find any unknown pathogen in the clinical sample. So I have been thinking in the past few years of use this patent principle to develop some clinical diagnostic assay or kit. So that's my hope. So I probably will submit a pre-application to this program. So that's why I'm coming here to this to want to know more.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll move on to Rebecca.
Hello, and thank you for hosting this webinar. So I'm Rebecca Karen. So I'm an associate professor of nursing at the University of Wyoming. So my research area focuses on polycystic ovary syndrome in Native American women. So I have had some embry funding in the past. So my research was going really well, and then COVID kind of interrupted it. Seriously, it really had an impact on the reservation that I was working with. Well, anyway, I am trying to get my research really going again with Native American women, focusing on especially trying to establish what the prevalence of PCOS is in Native American women. We don't know that. We actually know very little about this condition in Native American women, but they're at risk. It's been shown that the prevalence of PCOS in the Native population in Australia, for example, is a little on the high side. So anyway, I'm looking at if this funding opportunity might be appropriate for me to apply for looking at a preliminary screening trial of like, say, 100 and 150 Native American women to see what the prevalence is. I could easily do that through the student population, and well, I could recruit through the student population and then kind of snowball with friends and relatives. So I was kind of interested in if this might be an appropriate proposal for this project.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you. And we definitely will talk about some more, eligibility and project stage stuff as we continue through the call. But I'm just going to keep on going with the introductions. Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name is actually Susana Agudelo. I am a grad student, but I do have Nicole's. Nicole Layton is my boss. She's the professor and the director of the Entrepreneur Center that we have in the university. I
I was
am,
gonna say, I feel like I've met Nicole via Zoom, and
yeah,
maybe it was just a
this is
Zoom
never
thing,
know you.
but
Yeah, but I am her grad assistant and I work in an entrepreneur center in ISU, that's the Idaho State University. And we're here just to learn a little bit about what you guys are doing and what the opportunities for our customers is. And we're therefore advising them and consulting them and help them to get this grant or the support they need to their write-ups and everything. So we're a consulting firm. And there's Nicole now. But that's what we do a little bit, and that's why we're here to learn a little
great,
bit what you guys do. Yeah.
awesome, thanks. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, Lady. I am actually on the REACH
Yep.
committee. Yeah. So my group just writes, we have a commercialization center. And so we help people with commercialization and marketing plans and research. And we also help with a lot of different aspects of business. And so anyway, we are helping applicant, well, actually a grant, or not a grant, awards recipient from the REACH program, which Susanna probably already told you about. And so we just wanted to come in and see, be involved just so that we can make sure that the students understand and know what the program's about as well. And so they didn't register. I did give them my links. So we have more that will be coming as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Let's continue on with our intros with Plonica. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, you pronounced it right.
Great,
So I'm a new GA. I'm also working with Nicole. So I'm here to just get to know how you guys work and what are you working. That's it. So yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then it looks like we've got someone, Debashish.
Yes, that's me. Sorry, I don't have a camera on my phone. Can you hear me all right?
That's fine.
Yeah. No, on my desktop, sorry. So yeah, I'm a faculty in chemistry at the University of Wyoming. And we have some research going on developing nasal swabs that could potentially improve the sensitivity of, rapid influenza diagnostic test. And so we are developing new materials that are water soluble that could be used on these nasal swabs to improve that sensitivity. And I'm just here to find out more. I have intentions to apply to, submit the pre-application. And so, yeah, just here for some information.
Great. And is there anyone else on the call that I missed? Okay, excellent. Well, I think I might jump in with a question for Karen and Erica. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of the intent of the funding and the sort of activities that we would hope to be funding with this $50,000? Karen?
Go ahead, Karen.
You want me to? Okay. So for this initial $50,000, this award is really an opportunity to start moving more into a product development mindset. And so it's not a traditional grant with more specific aims and large, kind of lofty project goals. It's more so trying to drill down to, okay, if I have this product or this prototype, a functional prototype, or I'm getting close to identifying what my lead compound is, then how can I, set up a project plan where I can as effectively and quickly validate all of the questions that I have to see if this is really able to become a product. So the $50,000, you'll see in the RFA, there's a couple examples. They're pretty loose examples of what to expect your product to be at. I can't remember what page that is, but it kind of gives you an example of what development of your technology is appropriate to at least get started with the REACH. If you have questions about it, we definitely ask that you set up a discovery call with us, just so that we can talk through it a little bit more with you. But like I said, the $50,000 will be taking that product and getting it closer to that next value point where it can achieve follow-on funding. So the intent is really to get you to that next point where potentially you would be eligible to apply for, say, like an SBIR or STTR, or maybe even outside private venture funding. Does that give you a good place to start, Leidy?
Yeah, and I'll also just add that so it's $50,000, up to $50,000 in direct costs, and then we do cover the indirect costs on top of that. A little bit differently from some of our messaging last year is that it is up to $50,000. So as part of the full application, you will submit a project plan and a budget and a budget spreadsheet and then a budget justification, and the budget numbers will align with milestones in your project plan. And so once we have selected your application to fund, then we will have our expert team look at those milestones and the budget amounts associated with them. And I say one of the milestones, we think it's kind of a negotiation process where there's a chance that one of the milestones wouldn't actually get funded. That hasn't happened yet, but we really just want to make sure that the amount of funding that we are awarding is tied to actionable milestones that are realistic and, again, things that can be accomplished within the project period. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind, is that, we really want to know exactly what sort of activities the funding is going to be going towards. So you don't have to apply for the full 50, although we obviously very much encourage you to. And as part of the project agreement phase, after being selected to participate in REACH, we will drill down on the numbers and come up with a final award amount. Erica, Karen, do you have anything to add about that process?
No,
Maybe
I
I'll
think you said
clarify.
about.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just that there's it's a negotiation, as Leidy said. It's not that we're gonna, cross out this and, demand that, it is a back and forth between the funded investigator and the team about what are the most effective or the most productive milestones and doable, as Leidy said. And I do want to reiterate what Karen said too, that this is definitely a little different than maybe other pilot awards people have applied for that are either like a COBRE or an INBRE type of award. Yeah, they don't look like a specific aims page and then a research plan. So it is a very different type of grant application that is well described in the RFA. But just, have that in mind, that it is a very kind of different animal than what you might be used to. But we are here to help with that office hour link and grab a time if you'd like to.
And we do host a workshop series after we've invited projects to submit a full application. And one of those workshops is an overview of how to create your project plan and how to think about your budget and those kind of things. So it really is an interactive process of submitting a full application. We want your application to be as good and as successful as possible. So we will really work with you, and we're always here to meet with folks. Even now at the pre-application phase, where there's not really a lot of, you don't have to submit milestones and a detailed budget. If that's something that you're thinking ahead to, we're happy to meet with you and give you more details on what exactly that will look like.
And I'll clarify for the milestones that a number of our projects, I think the majority of our projects that we've funded, we really like to see both business development activities and product development activities. So beyond, this is where I need to get my product to prove that it has viability. We also want to see maybe some customer discovery or maybe some regulatory activities, like a regulatory opinion from a consultant, so that the funds can be used to really validate the overall business case for your technology, rather than just one or the other, just business activities or just product development activities.
Thanks, Karen. Does anyone have any questions about specific uses for the funding or anything that we've discussed so far? Okay, great. If you think of anything, again, just pop it in the chat or feel free to raise your hand. I might move on to just talking a little bit about eligibility for the award. Eligible principal investigators must be affiliated with an academic institution in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, or Alaska. And we are changing our eligibility guidelines a little bit this year from last year, where we're really asking folks to look at the eligibility guidelines for PIs at your institution and use that to determine whether you are eligible to apply for this or not. If you don't have those guidelines, or if your institution doesn't have those kind of guidelines, then you can look at the ones from the University of Montana. Those are included in the RFA. So this would kind of require you to reach out to your Office of Sponsored Programs or another office at your university prior to applying if you do have any questions about whether you're eligible or not. But I would say, professors, students do need to have a faculty sponsor, but professors, other faculty, really the only gray area for some institutions I would say might be, just a faculty affiliate. But again, just looking at the guidelines for your institution is going to be the best way to determine your eligibility. Anything else to add there on the team?
No,
Welcome. So if you do have a co-investigator from an institution outside of our 4th state region, that they're definitely welcome, but the primary PI does need to be here in our region.
Yeah, and that's the same with collaborators from, if you have a business partner or somebody from a clinic that isn't affiliated with a university, they can definitely be on the grant as a co-PI, but the main PI needs to be affiliated with the university or other academic institution in our region. And then I guess kind of going back to the RFA, I'll just ask, does the project have to be in one of the technology types that are listed on the RFA? Karen, Erica, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Does it have to be one of
Mhm.
those?
Yeah.
No, I would say those are examples of, if you have something that you don't know if it fits in one of those buckets, just feel free to reach out to us and we can talk it through.
Great, thank you. Karen, do you want to give a brief overview of the application process and project timeline?
Sure, I can do that. So we released the RFA last Monday. The pre-applications will be due on Friday, February 7th. We are going to close the portal at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, which I think everyone's in Mountain Time for the most part.
Except for
Alaska. Yeah, I think we might have ran into that issue last year. So that's the pre-application phase. The pre-application is written into the RFA, so you can see all the questions that are listed. We're really trying to get a sense of where the status is of your IP, how you see your technology addressing an unmet need, particularly for populations that are relevant to our region, such as rural or tribal populations. We want to see what your project team looks like, and a number of other small pieces, just to get a sense of what stage and eligibility, stage of the project and your eligibility for REACH. By March 7th, after our review of the pre-applications, we will be inviting full applications. Last year, we had gone from about 26 applications down to about 16. And the majority of those that we ended up removing and not inviting for the full application was really due to stage of technology, or the proposed project really wasn't about a technology development, or more so just like a higher level traditional research project. In that time frame of March and April, we'll be hosting a boot camp to help you really understand the questions and how to answer them at a level that helps with that shift that I talked about a little bit earlier, towards more of a product development, a project work plan. And we'll finalize those workshops a little bit later in this cycle, but definitely prior to inviting you for the full application. One piece that's important is that we have the final application due May 9th, Friday, May 9th. And then we have project pitch sessions. So that's essentially your opportunity to give a pitch, submit an actual pitch deck. It gives our external review board an opportunity to ask questions that they might have questions about from your application. And those dates are Thursday to Friday, May 29th and 30th. We do ask that the project PI is there, or that you let us know that you can't be there and confirm that another member of your team will be available to provide that pitch on those 2 days. Sometime in those 2 days, we'll work with your schedule to make it work. It goes through a process where our external review board is reviewing the applications and the pitches. Our external review board is made up of primarily industry representatives, people who have successfully licensed technologies or translated technologies out of the university setting, or people who have been working on product development from the industry side. Then after that stage, after we get our scores back from our external review board, we actually send the applications off to what the NIH is calling their Technology Guidance Committee. And this is a really fantastic opportunity for inventors, innovators to get their product in front of representatives from the FDA, from relevant NIH institutes and centers, from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, to kind of give that like payer and market access reimbursement perspective of it. And then also the USPTO, so the Patent Office, to get some feedback there. That feedback, both for the external review board and the Technology Guidance Committee, has historically throughout the cohorts of REACH been very valuable for innovators as they're going out to secure additional follow-on funding, because it's kind of an opportunity to have your product, have almost like a third-party validation from these key experts. And then we hope to tell you our earliest decision will be early August. We would love to go live and kick off the project September 1st, 2025.
And I'll add that for every step of evaluation that your application or pre-application gets, we do share the comments with you from both our executive committee and the external review board and the Technology Guidance Committee. So, even if you aren't selected for funding or your pre-application isn't invited to submit a full application, you'll still get the comments from those expert reviews. And the intent behind that really is to make sure, or to provide you feedback that will help improve your project, either improve its likelihood to get funding like REACH or a similar product development funding, or just to give you some additional perspective on your project. So we do share all of that feedback with you, and particularly the external review board and Technology Guidance Committee phase, the feedback is quite robust. our review board takes their jobs very seriously, and they really see the value in being able to provide this feedback to each applicant. So that's a little bonus, I guess, that other grant opportunities don't necessarily provide. And also just another thing to add about the project pitch sessions, one of our workshops is on developing a project pitch for this sort of commercialization intent. So it's a little bit different than, you know, sharing your research at a conference or something like that. It really is to help you get an opportunity to practice what it's like to pitch to investors, and how to talk about, you know, the commercial value of your project. And we do have a full workshop on that, and we'll have some other opportunities to practice along the way. And we did time that to be a little bit after the application is due, so that you don't really have to necessarily worry about it until after you've submitted your application, because we know that that is quite a big lift as well. So yeah, any questions? We can pause there if anybody has anything specific they'd like to know.
So I do have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So firstly, is this submission, I mean, if they're invited, is through the university or through the company?
It's through the university. So if you have we can only issue funding through the academic institution. We can't issue any funding to companies. If you do have, you know, a company that you'd like to work with as a consultant, then that would be built into your budget as a you know, like a subcontract.
Okay, because
Karen, and
yeah, because SBIR has to be submitted through the company, not the university. So related question, so if submit through the university, do this fund provide SFMA? I mean,
yes, we
you
do
don't-
provide FNA,
okay, so
and
it's
that's on top of the $50,000.
okay, okay, gotcha. I think so. So because if we need to submit through university, we probably need plenty of time because they need to review and go over the process. So
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, so we did extend the application timeline a little bit from last year, because we did have some folks who had to drop out at the last minute because they weren't able to fit within their university's time frame. So that is a really important thing to keep in mind. And again, we really do encourage all applicants to connect with you know, their office sponsored programs and also their technology transfer office prior to submitting a full application, just so that you're aware of those timelines and anything else that you know, your tech transfer office might want you to submit as far as intellectual property. Karen, Erica, do either of you have anything to add in response to these questions?
Yeah, we definitely go through your OSP and whatever your institution's requirements are for submission of external awards.
And then I would say that if you do have a company set up, we understand, you know, a lot of innovators are going to have these more of like a shell company ready for SBIR applications or future development. As long as the university owns the IP and your plan is to then license it to your company, you're still eligible to apply. It gets a little convoluted because in the RFA, the eligibility criteria says pre-company, but we understand that you might own a company. If the company is the one who has already licensed the technology or owns the technology, then unfortunately we wouldn't be able to fund you, because we can only fund university-owned IP. Pre-licensing.
Did that answer your question, Jack?
Yeah, thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
the goal of this program is to have the final SBIR. So are you working with the application, SBIR application? Do you help because this is 6 months to 1 year, right? Are you expecting to get SBIR right after the finish of this project, or it's you probably have a do we have some plan to submit within the application indicate we have to submit I mean, do you require submission of the SBIR grant during this period of time, or we can do it after the completion of this project?
Yeah, we expect it would be probably unlikely for investigators to be submitting the SBIR during the time of these funds. You know, perhaps, of course, but it's that this year would then prepare applicants or, sorry, innovators to then put together an SBIR. So give them some, hopefully that last piece of data to support their SBIR application. And we are funded through the seed office at NIH, so we can certainly connect our funded innovators with people from the various SBIR programs at the NIH, you know, whatever institute or center really fits your project.
And at the completion of these pilot awards, you, I said it at the beginning of the call, but you are eligible for an additional $50,000 through another funding mechanism that we're going to open up first around this time next year, called our Reach Drive Awards. So that would be an additional $50,000 if you need that to get you to that next stage. Submit an SBIR.
Yeah, and as Erica said, you know, we are really well connected with the NIH seed office. We're actually traveling to meet with them in a few weeks and learn a little bit more about the specific types of support that they can offer our innovators as they're sort of exiting the REACH program. So hopefully we'll have some more information about that in the future, and how, you know, best people can be positioned at the end of the REACH portion of their project, to continue on through some of those other funding mechanisms. Any other questions right now? Okay, great. I might ask Erica and Karen to touch a little bit on, you know, some of the less IP, less like technical evaluation criteria of what we're really looking for, like from an ideal project, as far as the impact that it will have on patients. Erica, do you want to start with that?
Sure. And one of the sessions that we will be putting on as far as putting together your full application is thinking about unmet need. So what is the unmet medical need that your project is attempting to address? So really be thinking about that from the forefront, because I think that's a really important criteria in our evaluation. And then not required, but certainly is something that we put value on, is if that unmet need meets a need that might be particular to our states. So thinking about rural population, indigenous populations, again, that's not a required element, but that is something that we feel is our mission. You know, our states that are funded or that we cover within our REACH award look very different than the rest of the REACH states that are more have more resources, you know, bigger cities, more access to large medical centers and hospitals, et cetera. So I think we have a unique opportunity to address some needs in our, you know, states that look a little different than maybe some of the more research intensive institutions. And yeah.
Anything to add, Karen?
No, I don't think so.
And that is, I think, one of the first few questions in the pre-application, is to describe the unmet need. So that's definitely something, again, that we would encourage you to think a lot about. Let me see, what else do I have written down here?
I think that that's all the information we really have to share. Are there any other questions, comments? That we've got a few more minutes, so this really is your time to learn whatever you feel like you need to best position yourself to submit a pre-application. All right. Well, not seeing any other questions, I did put that booking link in the chat. So if you do think of anything later or, want to talk anything specific about your project, more one-on-one, we are happy to meet with you. That link does book with anyone from our leadership team. So you might get someone who isn't one of the three of us, but they're all just as knowledgeable and helpful as we are. And then you can check out the RFA on our website. And if you have any issues with the pre-application portal, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help you with that. But not seeing any other questions, we might just hang out for another few minutes just in case anyone thinks of anything. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. Erica, Karen, any final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. Please reach out.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your time. We're really excited to infuse a little bit more capital into this region and see what great ideas are percolating and what research has been happening to address these unmet needs as we've talked about extensively now. So yeah, we're excited. We're excited to read all of your proposals.
Yes. I would also maybe just reiterate again that we do think that anyone who's submitting a pre-application or a full application would really benefit from meeting with their Office of Technology Transfer at their university and also their Office of Sponsored Programs, whatever those are called at your institution. They can be really helpful in the budget piece and then also in the intellectual property pieces that maybe if you might not be used to as a researcher.
So I was wondering, in the pre-application, what are you really looking for? I mean, how do you judge which you were going to invite to submit for a final application? What really are you looking for?
Yeah, do either of you want to touch on that, Erica, Karen? I'm happy to also.
I think really probably it's a little hard to say until we see them, but I think as Karen described before, I think probably one of the maybe exclusion criteria for moving towards full application would be if your innovation is too early, maybe not at the stage that would be eligible for REACH. Karen, do you have other things to add?
Yeah, and I'd maybe think about that as, have you talked to your tech transfer office? Is there a patent filed? Is there a provisional patent filed even? Those would all indicate a pretty good state from an IP standpoint. Obviously, that's a little bit different for like trademarks and copyrights, but you can kind of get the sense of the stage I'm in there. I think, a lot of what we excluded last year really was a broader research project or trying to understand that unmet need rather than having a product or a prototype that would address that unmet need. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah, I think our main criteria that we'll probably be looking at is, in simplest terms, like Karen and Erica said, the stage of the project, the intellectual property, not necessarily if a patent has been filed, but if there's a possibility for assigning intellectual property to the project. There are probably certain things that would really help address unmet need in our region that there just isn't any intellectual property protection available because it's something that's pretty public domain. But this really is about developing a product, and that could also be not necessarily something that's like a physical product, but enhancement to an electronic health record system, those kind of things that can go to a market. And then thinking about our mission and just, you know, wanting to serve folks in our state, four-state region rather, and really thinking again about that unmet need and the target population. Obviously, if it's something that would help folks broadly outside of our region, but would really have a big impact on our region, then that's fine too. But I think that that is another thing that we really look for. If, you know, two projects were equal in all the other ways, like which one really fits within our mission the most. So I would encourage you to look at our website and just some other information that we have there that talks a little bit about what exactly like our dream is for this program.
And I would just also say having a patent or provisional patent is not required, but that there is a pathway towards protecting the IP and a commercial and something that is commercially viable.
And you'll see a question on there that asks, you know, what do you intend to use the awarded funds for? At the pre-application stage, we're really not going to be, that's not going to be our make or break point, I don't think. That's early enough in the process where we could iterate. If you don't understand like what a milestone is or what an activity is, or trying to adjust your thinking in that mindset, in that sense, then that's something that we can definitely help with. There's also another question that says how the experience and expertise of the PI and members of the project team will benefit the project. I don't think that's a make or break question either. I think those are, you know, just helping us get a sense of where you're at and where there might be potential gaps where we could fill in.
Great point. Thanks, Karen.
So when we form a team for this project, do we need a person from a business side? Because SBIR always ask for if you have so we don't need to have a person from business side. So we don't need to consider about business plan at this stage, right?
No, and that I think is something that that's again one of those sort of gaps that the pre-application will help us identify. And even onto the application phase, when we're thinking about funding a project, we obviously are going to take some of those business activities into consideration, but that's an area where, you know, we can help support you, just understanding that, you know, not all teams will have someone who's a business expert. You know, how can we connect you with someone at your university or our university to do some of those activities if we see that that is an area that that would really help advance your project throughout the REACH funding period. So no, you don't have to have a business person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
Well,
remember that if you need a business person, we're here for you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
you. Yeah, I
exactly.
was thinking about that because when we submit the SBIR, so yeah, I'm looking for. They've always been criticized. We don't have a real business person in the team. So yeah, I was thinking about that. Thank you.
We're a fast grant recipient for SBIR, so that's part of, we do free commercialization work for SBIR clients.
Mhm.
A couple other reminders, just while folks might be thinking of some last minute questions, is that we have, we've launched a workshop series this January. We have one more session in that series this coming Wednesday. And this topic of that workshop is project claims and regulatory pathways. So, or not project, product claims and regulatory pathways. So that's really talking about the sort of hurdles that you might experience in bringing a technology to market, you know, interacting with the FDA, other regulatory entities, and how you can best position your project so that you have as few of those hurdles as possible. So a lot of that has to do with, you know, efficacy claims, essentially what you're claiming that your product will do. And we have an expert on the matter, Teddy Johnson from the Institute for Translational Health Sciences. He'll be presenting that. So I can drop the link to the registration for that in the chat. I'd love to have you join us. And then we do have the other 2 workshops. One is a Beyond the Lab, so talking a little bit about customer discovery, some of those activities that you would maybe learn from an I-Corps program, condensed a little bit into an hour-long presentation. And this week's workshop was on developing a target product profile, which is a really great roadmap for developing, you know, a biomedical product. And the hosts did encourage folks to be thinking about that as early in your project as possible. So I will drop the link to our YouTube where the recordings for those 2 sessions have been posted. You know, they were both really great sessions, and we do encourage everyone who's thinking about submitting a pre-application or a full application to check those out, because it is kind of helps you think a little bit about less of the lab work for your project and more of the beyond the lab work for that. So I will drop the YouTube in the chat right here, and maybe just turn it over to Karen and Erica to share any final thoughts before we let you all go for the day.
No, just on our YouTube page, there's also the workshops that we hosted last year with our innovators going through the application cycle. So that's the unmet need, developing a project plan, like Lydie said, pitch session, practice, how to put together a pitch deck, all those pieces. So there's some good material on there to help you get started, even if you just kind of have it on in the background and are thinking about it while you're putting together your pre-app.
So the pitch session is it's online, right? We don't have to go to your university.
That's right. Yeah, everybody will be online, even those that are at the University of Montana, just so that it's fair between applicants.
Thank you.
And that does remind me to just let you all know, since most of the folks on the call are not from Montana, of the 5 projects that we funded this year, 2 are from Idaho and 1 is from Wyoming, and then 2 are from Montana. So, you know, one of the other things that we're really trying to do with this program is to not just support innovators in Montana, but to support innovators in all of the states that we cover regionally. So don't think you're at a disadvantage if you're not from UM or Montana. You know, we were really happy with the representation that we got from Idaho and Wyoming last year, and we need to bring Alaska in, but we're feeling pretty good about that. And yeah, we're really excited to be partnering with other states and with other universities, and we really are taking that piece of the REACH mission to heart, and working to support people in our region as a whole.
I know the health disparity is a big issue because we always emphasize that. But I was just wondering, the unmet requirement, do we have to adjust like the local population, like in Alaska? We don't have to, right? I mean, it's
No,
better
you
to have, but
definitely not.
okay, just clarify that.
Yeah, so the unmet need can be any need. It doesn't have to be specific to your state or our region.
Yeah, it can be broad to the general population.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And it doesn't even have to be US, you know, there could be a global health need in developing countries, for instance. So yeah, so be thinking broad when you're thinking about unmet need. And for us, you know, we're not putting parameters around that.
Yeah, great.
And just for Nicole and your team, you said you might be working with some students. You know, and I would say this to anyone, so hopefully folks will watch this recording, that we really do encourage people to apply even if you're not sure that the project is there, you know, if you're not sure you're at the right stage. We tried to keep the pre-application barrier to entry as low as possible, because we're using this also as a way to just get a good picture of what sort of work is happening in our region and what sort of projects are needing additional support. And like I said earlier, the evaluation comments, even on the pre-application, we think, are really valuable to folks who are interested in taking their research in and using it to impact patient populations. So, you can always reach out, book a call with us, but if someone has a question or, isn't sure, just go ahead and submit. And if you've got the time and the capacity to do so, I would really encourage anyone, to submit a pre-application at the very least, and then we can review their project. And once we have the pre-application, if they're not invited to submit a full application, we're still really happy to meet with them and discuss their project as a whole and maybe help position them to apply again in the future once they've done a little more work on their project. So when in doubt, just go ahead and put in an application. All right, well, it looks like we're almost at time, so we'll turn the rest of the 4 minutes back to your day. But thank you again so much for joining us, and we really look forward to seeing all the applications out there and working with you more in the future.
Perfect. Thanks you guys for
Thank
all the
you.
information. That was extremely helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.